welcome back to the Nutrimedical Report. We are joined by Tim Alexander. Welcome back, Tim.
Hi. I almost jumped in and said, did the intro. I'm glad I didn't. Sometimes jump too fast here. We've got an interesting news day today. The biggest whorehouse in Washington, and I'm referring to the U.S. Capitol building. The House of Representatives has approved Obama's fast-track TPP trade plan legislation. Now, the Senate still has to approve it. And then, of course, once this secret agreement is finally presented, they have a yes or no vote on it. By the way, that whole process is unconstitutional. Only the Senate can approve a trade bill, and it has to be by 2/3 of the people voting. And no treaty can circumvent the United States Constitution or overthrow it. There only a minority of the TPP is actually about trade. A big part of it is setting up tribunals that are basically run by the corporations to circumvent American courts, which is unconstitutional. Establishing some people are now thinking what it's going to mean is getting rid of state medical programs like that you see in Canada or the United Kingdom or so forth. And also, of course, the United Kingdom's not involved in the TTP. But also taking away a lot of Medicare provisions, just really horrific stuff. And needless to say, a lot of American jobs will be lost, as if we had a lot more to throw away when you've got 100 million people without jobs in this country. When I say biggest whorehouse in Washington, that's giving whorehouses a bad name. Sad to say. And,
well, the whole issue of what's going on in Washington is a move toward a globalist reaction to the BRICS nations. And the bankers, what they're trying to do is trying to force this down the BRICS nations to say, hey, we have our own plan for the world, and you're not part of it. We're going to squeeze you out.
Yeah, and that's all part of the economic foundation to the Third World War. It's all by design. I'm still not totally convinced that Russia and China aren't in on the whole march to World War III. Certainly in World War II, both sides were in on it. Who knows? All I know is, with absolute certainty, is we're in the end times. And the nightmare gets a little bit worse day after day after day. The entire Eurozone, by the way, is hinging on a Greek debt deal, according to the Economic Affairs Commissioner at the EU. They're really going to have to pull a rabbit out of the hat to get a deal. The members of Parliament in the governing party have finally kind of held their leaders' feet to the fire, and they're saying, no, it's time to tell IMF and the European Central Bank and the EU itself to go to hell. And it looks like they probably will.
Here's what I'm predicting. Number one, this TPP will be found unconstitutional, and it will be ripped apart in the next few years, but it'll do a lot of damage while it's being ripped apart. The economy is going to have a major correction. I don't think a total collapse. I think when I listened to you on Wednesday to Harley Schlanger, he's predicting a total collapse. Joel Skousen is in the opposite end. He thinks it'll be no collapse until we have approximately World War III where we capitulate to the Russians. Listen, if there's a World War III, there won't be any capitulation because there'll be nobody to capitulate to. Everybody will be dead.
President Kennedy said, the victory will be ashes in the mouth of the victor.
Yeah, and there won't be any victors either.
Right.
And a few that are in underground bunkers safe enough, at least temporarily, will come out to a place that will be devastated. And that's why I had interesting comments from Joel Skousen talking about the Terra Vivos. If you're in a public shelter, how are you going to get past the hundreds of people or know where the shelter is? The guards will have to start shooting people so you can, with your ID card, after you paid your megabucks to get inside the private shelter. And if it lasts longer than a year, they're going to have to start eating each other, Soylent Green, to survive because they don't have.
And why would the guards not shoot the people in there and bring their families in?
Right. Now here's the point. I think I tell people I like Joel Skousen's safe room, or even get one of these shelters you can get and bury yourself, or put in your yard and then put grass inside and everything over top.
That makes sense, but it's still that's a short-term solution to a long-term problem.
Well, I think here's what I suspect. I think there'll be survivors, just like there were survivors in Nagasaki and Hiroshima. But to be honest with you, to be bluntly honest, I don't think, as I've said before, and I know I get flack even from my wife, Michelle, you can't say that on the air, but I'm going to say it on the air, that I hold back 90% of what I know because you couldn't handle what I know. And I do. I don't even tell her or anybody else what I know, 90% of it. Because if you knew what I knew, your heart would stop instantly. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that, and you can see shadows of it as a geopolitical historical expert, Tim. The war that's coming, the devastation that's coming, when we even see the TPP and this is a treaty basically, is literally capitulating America to destroy the nation. When they have this report called Deagle, D-E-A-G-E-L, military report, that keeps revising the population reduction to 2025 to 65 million from 317 million, it's by design. When they say they want to have 12 megacities only where the only population exists, there's no such things as towns or cities outside these megacities. This is their intention.
So the puppets and those that have to be well educated can serve the super elite, the 30 extended families that control everything. Now, you know what? That's not sane. It's not logical. It's not human. It's demonic. And guess what? Nobody gets fooled and led down the primrose path to their own destruction more than Satan's minions, because Satan is
they're
a
the brown
liar.
shirts. Well, they're the brown shirts that are going to get eaten first.
Well, the brown shirts got wiped out by the black shirts in Nazi Germany. I mean, they didn't even make it to the end. And you're right. But we're dealing with, from a human perspective, nuttiness, craziness, clinical insanity.
Demonic insanity, because it's not even regular insanity.
I said from a human perspective, because you cannot look at this and say, well, gee, the Rothschilds are going to come out on top of this. I don't think so. Nobody comes out on top when you destroy your planet. This is pure Satanism of the worst type. And you can see it every day, and every day there are more moves, more Belgium and France confiscated Russian state assets. I mean, every day there's something flopped on the table to prod Russia to make a military or a major strategic response to. And it's so unnecessary. Why the heck do we want to have a war with Russia?
Well,
she's only got 4,500 hydrogen bombs aimed at us. Why would you pick a fight with somebody that that has that kind of firepower?
Exactly. Now, look at Ezekiel 38:39. It says, I am against you, O chief prince of Meshach, Tubal of Rosh. That's Moscow, Tubalsk of Russia in Ivrit Hebrew. And put hooks and jaw in the jaws of her and hauled her down to the mountains of Israel. So, Russia's being hauled down, literally like a beast of burden or beast of war, hauled forward into the battle of destruction. And so is China. It says their number shall be 200,000. Mao Zedong even quotes it in a red book from Revelation 9.
In the U.S. alone, a home invasion occurs every 13 seconds. On top of that, the average response time for 911 is over 15 minutes. That just won't cut it. Don't allow yourself or the important people in your life to be victims. When seconds matter, don't be caught stumbling for your firearm. Get the protection you deserve. Get yourself a hidden holster from hiddenholster.com. It's the original hidden holster. The hidden holster is quick, easy, and convenient. It's versatile enough for the home, workplace, or virtually anywhere else you might need it. Have peace of mind with your firearm close by at all times. Go to hiddenholster.com. That's hiddenholster.com. If you own a firearm, you need a Hidden Holster. Your protection matters, and self-defense is the best defense. Go to hiddenholster.com. That's hiddenholster.com. The original Hidden Holster.
And welcome back. And Tim, you have some shocking news. Of course, you have shocking news every time
my
you're on.
Newsblock Europe, and by the way, guys, if you want to find it, just do a Google search "large sterling Europe" and you'll find it. I helped to break this story yesterday. Almost 100 senior Israeli and Saudi officers were killed about a week ago by Yemeni missile attack on a Saudi Air Force base just across the border a little ways. There were over 20 senior Israeli officers and 63 Saudi officers, and they also sent in commandos and captured 35 additional Israeli and Saudi officers. They were working on a plan to attack some regions of Yemen with prohibited Israeli-made weapons. The commander of the Royal Saudi Air Force, Lieutenant General Mohammed bin Ahmed al-Salim, was killed in the missile attack, and this has now been confirmed. Israel can't lie, and I'm sure they have some of these Israeli officers that down the road a bit they may put them on trial or put them in the public eye. But the Israelis and the Saudis are running this thing. It's just it's a nightmare. Well, there's a real interesting article. I think I just linked today on my blog. Oh, what a tangled web Israel weaves when they practice to deceive. Now, this is from one of my favorite sites. It's Video Rebels blog, and the guy does some pretty good analysis. I don't always agree with him because I take a spiritual view of the thing as well as a geopolitical strategic view. But he's saying that the immediate issues that we face in the Middle East for the next 90 days, he thinks that we're really headed for a major war in kind of the whole entire Middle East area, what I call the general Middle East war.
That's by design because they're planning on a major peace treaty, and Obama is planning, with the backers behind him in the United Nations and Zbigniew Brzezinski, author of the Grand Chessboard, they're planning on creating a greater state of Israel by creating conflict around them and absorbing, if not absorbing the states, controlling the states around the state of Israel. It's a real hell, which is a proxy for the global bankers. And they should change the name of Israel to Rothschild land. How's that?
Yeah, pretty much so. But I'll tell you what, there's over 6 million Israeli Jews that live in Israel. And they better be very careful, or the Rothschilds are going to get them all killed, and the Rothschilds will cry crocodile tears because it's part of their strategic plan. It goes back to the writings that were in the British Museum until one of the Rothschilds got on the board of the British Library. I'm sorry.
We talked about this on Monday with Barry Chalmers in the transfer agreement. That ultimately it's a plan of sabotaging Satanistic Jews.
Well, this is the one to create 3 world wars to get us to the New World Order. This is Albert Pike's letter that was written shortly before the First World War. And the Third War, and he described the First World War and the Second World War pretty well. But the Third War, and this is historically documented. This is not something that Tim Alexander or Lord Sterling just cooked up. This is, well documented historically. But the Third War was to be between the Christians and Jews on one side and the Muslims on the other side. And that's why you have this ISIS, this false organization created, and they're doing horrible atrocities. It's totally an Israeli, American, CIA, Saudi, Amani controlled operation. By the way, there's a report that once again,
before you get off the topic,
al-Baghdadi has been killed. Supposedly 2 weeks ago, he was seriously injured and was brain dead in an Israeli military hospital. This latest report says that he was killed. in Syria. Who knows? All I know is from multiple sources that are credible, his real name, al-Baghdadi, the leader of the ISIS, his real name is Simon Elliott. He's an Israeli actor. He's not Muslim. He's Jewish. He's an Israeli citizen and a Mossad officer. He was trained in Arabic languages, in the Islamic religion, and it's all facade. It's a almost a B-grade movie. But when you control 96% of the mainstream media and almost all the whores in Washington and many other capitals around the world, you can shovel manure and tell people it's candy, and a lot of people buy it. Sad to say.
The comment I was trying to make was integrating with what you said. Barry Chamish on Monday in the third hour talked about the transfer agreement and the fact that this prophecy you talked about that goes back to Albert Pike, the Rothschilds are planning on sacrificing the 7 million Jews in Israel, planning on their demise because it's an astral sacrifice to the Rothschild god, which is Satan. And people say, no, listen, the greatest danger to Jews are Sabbatean Jews, or we call the labor Zionists.
Let's look at the flag of Israel. You have a six-pointed star. What that is a triangle representing the Holy Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, turned upside down. Now, if you go to the Jewish Encyclopedia, and they're located in many libraries, and look up the Mogen David, the Star of David, well, first off, you'll find that the King David knew nothing of that.
No, he had no idea.
It is, and according to the Jewish Encyclopedia, it is an occult symbol that was adopted by the early Zionists. It is the symbol of the red shield, the Rothschild family, because their original name was Bayer, and they had a gold trading business, and they, on a black background, had this red six-pointed star.
Yeah, but you know what
that
star is?
They eventually changed their name to Red Shield Rothschild.
Tim, that star actually is historically the Canaanite star of Ashtoreth, which is a fertility goddess, that 9 months earlier they would have had lascivious sex with other people's husbands and wives. If they didn't have a child, they bake sweetbreads to the Queen of Heaven shaped like babies, like gingerbread men and baby girls and boys. So if they didn't have a baby, they'd put the baby on the altar of the arms of Moloch and the hot coals to burn them to death. Or they put a proxy of one of these sweetbreads to the Queen of Heaven. So it was a fertility.
Sounds like demonic to me, doesn't it to you?
It's called a fertility sacrifice of human baby Israeli children to their fertility goddess Ashtoreth.
And this religion, by the way, is a very, very perverted form of Judaism. It's Talmudic Judaism with an awful lot of demonic stuff in there. The Jews of the time of Christ and before would not recognize it. They would say, "What in the world is this? This is not our religion."
This is not Judaism. This is Satanism with a Judaic mask on.
Exactly.
Yeah. Just call it what it is.
Yep.
Back in a moment with Tim. If you have any questions on any of these geopolitical issues, it is open line, but you have to stay on topic. 800-259-5791. Tim, it wasn't for the fact that God's involved in this whole equation. When I hear people that do a geopolitical analysis without including God, they're fools. When I talk to friends and relatives that think that I'm nuts, how about they're nuts, they're gutless, and they won't ask the questions or investigate it, and they're the idiots, not us.
Well, Dr. Bill, I go through this. It's not so much that people think I'm nuts, although I'm sure some do.
Oh, they'll say that because it's their way of not investigating or facing the truth.
And I don't make this stuff up. Okay, I find it from open sources,
but, Tim,
and I usually look for confirmations from, and I know what sources to avoid, like Shasha, what's her face, and all this nonsense.
All that stuff.
Yeah, and I look for, and you look at the pattern. I've been doing this for about 50 years since I was a kid, and after a while, things begin to fit together, and I've probably forgotten more than most people know about the strategy and geopolitics and everything, but that doesn't mean I know everything, because heck, I make mistakes all the time.
Tim, we know enough to know that
the other pieces a mosaic, and I've only got a third of the pieces. But by the way,
here's my point.
One of my artwork, my guy in Canada, Rini, that does this really great stuff. He sent me this thing, and it's from the movie Titanic, and it's got the picture Titanic on. This is on my blog here, and it's got the gal. Oh, I can't think of her name. The actress, where she's on the front of the Titanic. You know, when they first are cruising, and what's his face is behind her, holding her. Only on this, the woman has Obama's face, and Ben Bernanke is the guy behind her with a bandit's mask on. And you know, you got to see this picture. This is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, Tim, here's what my point was with that last little rant I mentioned. I don't have any patience for people that won't investigate. And I don't have patience for people that want to attack me ad hominem. I'm bulletproof to that. I'm not interested in their stupid comments or their ad hominem attacks. I want them to attack the issues. In other words, I want abuse, but I want what called logical abuse of the issues.
You want people to think. You want people to read.
To logically analyze the issues, because here's the problem. I see our civilization is crashing. At 63 and a half, I really don't want to spend my retirement years, which is working my butt off, trying to help get people well and trying to get the truth out. When I realize my days, weeks, months, and years, in any way, shape, or event, are numbered anyway, even though I'm healthier than most, I don't want to be wasting my time when people are stupid enough, and I'm getting nice about this. I only give them a tiny portion of what I know, and I know some people get offended. Oh, you can't say that on air. Even my wife said, you can't say that 90% of you're holding back. Yeah, I can, actually. Because you out there, if you think you know better, have the cojones to call in live and actually confront us and say we're full of it because of A, B, and C, but be logical. Don't try to kind of just do it. I'm hollering because you're talking over your guests and you interrupt them and you do this and that. I'm not interested in that kind of stupid comment. What I want to know is why you think they didn't demolish the World Trade Center. Why it happened 10 years to the day after George Bush Sr., who was involved in the assassination of John F. Kennedy, to the day they killed the World Trade Center, and how it was not a demolition when the debris pile had one-third of the mass not even in the debris pile hauled away to Great Kills site. How Sandy Hook was a false flag.
210-story buildings and 147-story building only managed to make a rubble pile of about, maybe 4 or 5 stories? Explain that one.
Right. Well, you know, it goes on and on and on. And I am absolutely enraged by people who want to make, because they're so gutless and stupid, they want to make attacks against me. And it's not for my own sake, because really, to be honest with you, I'm well beyond the ego issues there. I'm concerned about our civilization. I have grandchildren. I want to see America still a nation 1,000 years from now. I want a world that's not destroyed in the next few years or decades. I want a world where human beings still have peace and security in every nation, like the coat of many colors of Joseph, which means every nation is strong, every nation now knows God, every nation has expunged itself from Sabbatean Judaism and Islam and any satanic religion, and has transitioned beyond transhumanism and overcome the singularity of artificial intelligence and life extension and not become monsters. I want to see a human race that actually has the guts to face things, and Christians that will speak out and speak up and be Joshua Christians. As I've said before on the show, this cheek, when you strike it, this is called the cheek of disciplining the child.
Well,
when Jesus said, don't turn the other cheek. Let me finish, Tim. Let me finish. The other cheek is called the cheek of death. You strike this cheek, and we have to struggle until one of us dies. And that's what Jesus was saying. I'm your brother. I'm your sister. You know, in other words, they're in a relationship. Don't strike this cheek, because we then now have to struggle until one of us dies. And what Jesus is saying is we as Christians need to struggle against evil. If we aren't doing that, we're not Christians. And I see most of the church absent without leave. AWOL. I see most of the people who call themselves conservative Christians and conservative people in general absent without leave. I see the world in general totally freaked out, like these Egyptian generals freaked out by what's going on in America, banging the table saying, why are you putting up with Obama? And this trade agreement they're trying to ram through with both Republicans cheering it on because they're globalist maniacs and whores too. Because remember, Obama is a bisexual whore. That's what he is. That's his job. And a lot of these senators and congressmen in the great whorehouse
Well,
called
he and
the
the
Capitol.
the current mayor of Chicago were male prostitutes in the biggest gay bathhouse in Chicago. That's a known historical fact.
Well, that's the reason why we're in such a...
Commander-in-Chief.
Well, if we don't impeach this maniac, here's what I expect. The war in the Middle East will explode this summer. That Greece debt will collapse this July, which is a few weeks. That we will see the devolution of America with a trade agreement with massive loss of jobs. We'll see riots. We're going to see states start to go financially insolvent. We're going to see massive eugenics under Obamacare. Because remember now, this trade agreement is only part of it is trade. Most of it has nothing to do with trade. We talked about this with Harley Schlanger just yesterday. After the G7 meeting, even the frigging Pope is calling for carbon credits and carbon control of the world.
You know, I'll tell you what, Pope Francis is going to rot in hell because he is the water boy, the front man for the globalist on this nonsense global warming. I mean, that's been disproven by countless credible scientists.
Even conservative senators.
Lies. It's Al Gore's BS to create a whole new little trading scheme.
Here's what we're facing, Tim. We're facing right now, and this is like the end of the road, the prophecies of Malachi, the Irish monk almost 1,000 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Prophesied, and this is the last pope. This is the anti-pope.
Yeah.
We have in the White House the abomination that desolates, that's literally promised to the Palestinians he's going to partition the city and set up a Palestinian state and partition the city to Al-Quds, East Jerusalem, the Mount of Olives, where Jesus said, I'm going to land, my feet will touch the Mount of Olives. And by the way, there's a fault line there running all the way through the valley of Jezreel, all the way to Haifa, and all the way right through to the Dead Sea. Did you know that? That same fault line runs from the Mount of Olives. So what he's prophesying is a great earthquake that will destroy 1/7 of the population of the city of Jerusalem when this happens. Those earthquakes, by the way, are triggered by the approach of the destroyer Nemesis, Herculobus, the dwarf star, and there's evidence of that happening right now. And I've said this on the program. In fact, I had calls yesterday in my last hour with Jonathan Gray, and he was talking about this, and I said I had a caller from New York call in, and I said, look, the gravity waves are heating up the plasma. In fact, I talked this morning to Professor McCanny, who'll be on tomorrow, and what they do is they are causing these trumpet sounds in the upper atmosphere. Their warning sign, God's warning sign saying, I'm coming. The trumpets are blowing all over the planet. You're going to have a giant superquake. You're going to have
Gabriel.
Right, you're going to have superquakes. You're going to have, it says in Matthew 24, Jesus' own words, you're going to have earthquakes and volcanoes, and you're going to have extreme weather. And this is not the end of days. This is the beginning of birth pangs. I'm telling you, out there, if you think that we were just making this up or this is a rehearsal, it's not the real thing, you're a fool, because this stuff is happening right now, and Obama is racing us over the edge of a cliff to destroy our nation.
Protocol is a good site to go to, the extinction. Volcanic
protocol,
activity everywhere is heating up.
Yeah, exactly. And on the break, Tim, you mentioned an interesting link, which I'll post a link across to it. It's called the Extinction Protocol. Indonesian volcano set to blow, but thousands of villagers refuse to flee. This is near Lake Tomba in Indonesia.
Yeah, this site, Dr. Bill, has it basically covers volcanic activity and earthquake activity, and this is one of the many sites I go to just about every day, and anymore, I mean, it's just one thing after another.
Do you wonder how my
watched this site for years and not all of a sudden say, "Oh my Lord, something big is going on planetary-wise."
Tim, do you wonder how I knew that gravity waves were the trigger for this?
I bet you're going to tell me.
I'm going to tell you, and then it's something that you wouldn't expect. First, I have a background in nuclear physics and plasma chemistry, but that's not how I found out. I found it out in prayer. God literally showed me dreams and visions to show me what was happening. Then I went back to my scientific and technical experts and corroborated. When you have the two witnesses of your intellect and the spirit, which is God telling you in dreams and visions, this is what's going on. And the thing is, I've had first-hand evidence. You see, God always sends to those who are His witnesses. And, you know, my actual title, if you want to call it, is a witness of the northern tribes of Israel, or the Ephraim. There's two houses of Israel, Ephraim and Judah. And the Cohens lived in the area around the Shuf Mountains around Beirut. That's where all the Cohens had land. They didn't have land down in the southern part we call Israel or Judea. They had lands up around the Shuf Mountains around Beirut. And my ancestor was the blood descendant, direct descendant of Moses. So people need to know that God's giving that a calling to say, I'm going to try to tell you what's going to happen. I don't know everything, but I do know some things, and I don't even know the specific timing, but I can tell you the events. I expect this fall things to really heat up with war in the Middle East, an economic correction. It won't be a total collapse like Harley Schlanger saying, and it won't be a nothing like Joel Skousen saying. It's going to be painful enough that we're going to accept certain bad things. A peace treaty in the Middle East so we don't go to World War III, an elimination of cash because they can't keep the interest rates low to keep government solvent unless they get rid of physical cash, which means we're one step closer to the mark of the beast. They've now typed and checked and iris scanned and did 10 digital fingerprint scanned everyone in India. Other nations are catching up very quickly. A digital...
and that was the beta test on over 1 billion people, by the way.
Right, and then this, by the way, is being done in every nation on earth, from Uganda to South Africa. Everybody's getting what's called this universal driver's license certifiable technology to have a digital facial thing and digital fingerprints as part of your biometrics. Eventually, they'll want a terahertz scan of your bones, and they'll want other things like DNA so they can do it at high levels of security, a DNA verification. I've actually seen the DNA biochip at building number 10 in 1999 at Oak Ridge National Lab, and the Affymetrix people that are doing the work in Chicago. I've seen it firsthand, not secondhand. So Dr. Deagle knows the exquisite technical details behind this in the virtual world project.
They probably made quite a few advances in those 16 years.
Well, back then they had a biochip could take your DNA by endonuclease with a little laptop. They could tell who you were from any other individual on Earth in 45 to 60 seconds with a chip that cost 45 cents. That's what it was back then. 99. Now, that's 16 years ago, so people need to understand that science has probably advanced a lot, which means basically they're going to be able to take a microdrop of your blood and determine if you're going to get access to a building or a place. But I expect after the ISIS terrorism, which I also think will hit this fall, again, remember, ISIS is us. So is the demolition of the World Trade Center towers was done by Israeli nuclear teams using the old stock of the Davy Crockett micronukes.
Exactly.
But it was Israelis that pulled the trigger, but they were on orders from the CIA. People need to understand that the world government is already in full place already. They just haven't declared their complete control. And things like these trade treaties are moving us toward a world order very, very quickly. I mean, it basically is going to nullify the actual presence of our courts and our laws and our states.
You're completely 100% right, Dr. Bill, but here's something we should remember. We are many. They are few. What are they? 8 families, 30 families?
Yeah, but you know what the problem is? You know what the problem is, Tim?
We are allowing it.
There should be 10,000 doctors like me. Tim, there should be 10,000 doctors like me declaring how bad the medical system is, and there isn't. There should be 10,000 Tim Alexanders.
There ought to be about 1 million in this country.
Right, but there isn't. So what I say happening
preachers,
is
priests,
evil.
Rabbis? How about in the churches?
Listen.
You know, when I was a kid, the Catholic Church had the Legion of Decency that really went after the Hollywood whoremongers when they wanted to put some real trash out. You don't have that anymore. Well, you got a pope that is carrying water for him.
He's endorsing
the biggest thing we got to worry about is global warming. Yeah, right.
Right, and he's endorsing atheists, agnostics, and Muslims, which are clearly anti-Christians. He's endorsing heresy, basically. And what we need to understand is we are in the end. This is the end of the road. Now, it's not going to be the end of the world, but for a lot of people who aren't prepared physically and spiritually for what's coming, they're going to die. Not just a physical death. Many of them will make bad decisions, and they'll die the spiritual death, which is the second death. And this is not a joke. The reason why I'm so desperate to tell people the truth is because I don't want to just see people suffer physically. I just don't want to see civilization crash and completely disappear. I don't want to see millions go to the place of destruction forever.
Yep.
And where I see happening in our world is I think it's the end of the road. I think that the passivity of our government, the willingness to attack the messenger, thinking the message will go away if they attack Deagle or Tim Alexander or anybody else who tells them the truth or even raises an issue, even if they don't believe us, please don't believe us. Do 2 things, pray and research yourself. And if you can only absorb about 1/10 of what we tell you that's the truth, it'll freak you out. Now, you can't absorb the other 90%, I say, and I won't say it. In fact, I don't tell not even my wife what I know. There's a whole lot of stuff that I can't tell anybody, and the reason is they won't it'll shock them so badly that literally their heart will stop.
Well, once you begin to see the game that's being run, your eyes are open.
And, well, the problem is I've been through this firsthand. Tim, it's not just seeing it; it's living it. It's getting death threats. It's seeing people freaked out because in Oklahoma City, when one of the special ops team told me to check them out for nuclear, and after they discovered that I knew that they demolished the Murrah building in Oklahoma City with micro nukes and high explosive cord and RDX and C4 pineapples in the parking garage, they court-martialed them and they fired and gave me death threats. So I'm pretty damn sick of it. I am absolutely not going to tolerate any more crap from anybody out there in the audience that thinks they know better than Deagle. And when I hear people that think, well, you shouldn't say that you know better than other people, damn it, I do know better than pretty well anybody out there. And if you can challenge me, prove it. Prove it, prove it, prove it. I'm so sick of people saying, you can't
Dr.
prove
Bill,
it.
But you wanted to mention what Chris had to say.
Right.
We're about
I want to say that here very briefly. What basically they don't have a place in the common cooling pool to put the nuclear materials. They are also very worried there's going to be a major hydrogen-triggered nuclear explosion in Fukushima. The radiation levels have already shot up over 7,000 times higher than any other time previous. We are on the verge of a major catastrophe, not only the desertification by radiological isotopes of the North Pacific, but an extinction-level event, not just there, but all the reactors around the world, now building more of them like crazy, including Rosatom of Russia, has contracts in South Africa, India, China, all over the place. Everybody, including us, are building nuclear reactors, most of them in tsunami zones, right near fault line zones.
Dr. Bill, I remember in the book of Revelation reading that in the end times a third will die of wormwood. And I always said, what in the heck? And I look up wormwood, and it's
Chernobyl.
Makes no sense. And finally, I read what Chernobyl means. It means wormwood, bitter wood, and the waters will be made bitter. And I get goosebumps. I have goosebumps right now just thinking about it, because that's the answer for almost 2,000 years. People were saying, well, what does St. John, what does he mean, wormwood? Now we know.
I had a lady the other day by email trying to rebuke me as if she's some kind of expert, without making statements about the actual issues, just saying, how dare you, and why should you think that you know so better than anybody else? It's not coming for a Christian to say that they know better. Yes, it is, actually. I'm a leader. I know better, and I am like a leader like my ancestor Moses, telling you, if you challenge me, fine. You can be a grandmother with a grade 3. If you can prove me wrong, I'm willing to learn. I have no intellectual attachment to my previous levels of stupidity. And believe me, I can be stupid. But after all I've been through, and everything I know firsthand, you're going to have a hard job to prove that this is a conspiracy theory.
We need to get right with God, because
so if you think you want to challenge me, don't send me stupid emails. Call into the show live. Make a challenge on the intellectual validity of what we're saying here, and prove with references what you think you believe. That's perfectly fine. But I don't get any comers. I haven't had any for 5 years. 5 years, anybody stupid enough to think that they can challenge these facts. So if you think you can, by all means, call in. It'll be a nasty day for you. Nasty. And there is no such thing as a stupid question. Don't be afraid to call in. If you've got a good, valid point, do. Please.